Welcome back to another weekly update, and the news never stops. And following the issue that we've been following so long, the NFL and personal conduct in this year where it's dominated the news in the NFL, even more than the games, what's happened between Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, and this new conduct policy. Here's the update. Adrian Peterson hearing was last week. I stood on the corner for ESPN both in New York and in Washington, D.C., a two-day hearing. The first day was all about what exactly the precedent should be. The lawyers for Adrian Peterson are arguing essentially the same thing the lawyers for Ray Rice are arguing, a lifting of the indefinite suspension, because the precedent for domestic violence suspensions is 2 games. That has always been the standard up until the new policy, which was instituted in late July. The argument for Peterson, his conduct in whipping his child occurred in May, therefore there shouldn't be any penalty beyond the 2 games for what happened. So we wait. That decision should be coming down any time. Another key witness was Troy Vincent, the NFL's vice president, who allegedly said to something on a recorded conversation to Adrian Peterson about coming and talking to psychologists and talking to counselors, and he would be under the old policy, which again is the 2 games. So we wait. It'll either be another rebuke of Commissioner Goodell and the league if Peterson wins the case. If Peterson loses, expect further legal action because Peterson's team may take this to federal court, arguing the lack of fairness and independence in the process because the hearing officer is Harold Henderson, closely aligned with the NFL. That decision should come down in the next couple of days. The bigger picture that we've talked about all fall is this domestic violence policy. It's been under construction since the incidents happened in early September, and the construction has been largely at the hands of the NFL, figuring out what to do. The important part here is they have done this with minimal inclusion of the NFL Players Association. That's the partner that seems to be lost in this. The NFL has a lot of partners. They have partners as licensees, sponsors, of course, the broadcast networks, charitable organizations. But the partner that's most important seems to be lost here. It's the NFL Players Association. It's the union. It's their players. It's the product. And what's happened is, the NFL has listened to them and included them and had meetings with them, but they clearly are not doing what the NFLPA wants, which is collectively bargaining with them about a new policy. They're basically getting their input, which has not been well received, and they're coming up with their own policy. A couple key points here. The NFL players have asked that do not discipline a player just on an arrest. Wait till a final adjudication. Wait till someone's acquitted or convicted or something like that. The NFL is clear that's not going to happen. They want to take players off the field after an arrest. They don't want the specter of a player committing a domestic violence or violent act with an arrest and then playing. That was important this year in removing Greg Hardy and Adrian Peterson from the field, even though they were paid. The other key point the NFLPA wants is that you can, in saying to the NFL, you can have Commissioner Goodell as the initial discipline officer. In other words, he would suspend a player, he would fine a player, but there would be an independent panel, appeals panel, that would oversee the discipline, and players could appeal to someone independent, as with the Ray Rice case where you had a judicial officer as an independent arbitrator. The NFL says no, they want it the other way around, which is there will be an independent disciplinary officer or an independent panel that will impose the initial discipline on a player for a violent act. However, above that person is Roger Goodell or his designated person. So Roger Goodell, the commissioner, will not be the judge and jury, but he will be the appellate judge and jury, which in essence is more important. He will have that right. As we sit here today on Wednesday, December 10th, the owners are talking about that new policy in a meeting without the union present. They may even be voting on a policy that's going to be unveiled during the Super Bowl. So once again, this mistrust, this lack of communication, maybe even contempt between the two sides has led to the NFL fashioning a conduct policy to soon be unveiled without the participation of the union. What may happen there? We may see more legal action. We may see the union going to the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, and saying, listen, we weren't included. This is a mandatory subject of bargaining, as you hear about in the lectures on labor law with sports. And therefore, this idea that the NFL can do this without us is going to be litigated in the National Labor Relations Board. We'll see. There could be and may well be more lawyers involved with this, but for now, the NFL is unveiling its new conduct policy involving domestic violence, one we've waited for since early September, and it's happening without the advice and consent of their most important part of the NFL Players Association. We'll keep track of this, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks.